Mr. Secretary, as last time you were here, I've got so many questions that I'm just going to go through the questions and ask you to respond for the record, and then my last question will be one I'll ask you to respond to orally. I've noticed that U.S. diplomats are far less knowledgeable and far less concerned about commercial matters than are the officials of other foreign ministries and other diplomats that I've had a chance to deal with. Commercial matters. And I'm therefore pleased that you said that our diplomats had secured contracts for major American companies. In this room, I heard one of our very top diplomats boast as to how he had introduced the South Korean people to the Crossfire automobile and urged that they buy it, unaware that that automobile made by Chrysler, or with the Chrysler name tag, was 98% German made. And so I'd hope you'd furnish for the record that what procedures we have so that our diplomats are pushing for U.S. jobs and U.S. value added, not just U.S. companies. In response to Elliot Engel, you put in kind of the accepting Israel as a Jewish state with rights for all people as kind of in the same category as negotiating about Jerusalem. I'll point out that Israel has already made a very painful concession, and that is that there should be a sovereign Palestinian state, which is the home for the Palestinian Arabs, and I might add, probably won't have equal rights for all people. So I would hope that you would either persuade the Palestinians to accept Israel as a Jewish state with rights for all, or alternatively, suggest to our Israeli friends that they withdraw the concession that they've already made, that there should be a Palestinian state that is a home for the Palestinians until such time as the Palestinians make that same concession, or co-relative concession. As to Iran, the question I would ask you to answer for the record is, what defines a bad deal? Would it be a bad deal if Iran had such stockpiles, such technology, and such centrifuges, so that in a year of breakout, they could produce a nuclear weapon? My next issue is this committee voted to provide that $1.5 million should be spent to communicate with the people of South Pakistan in the Sindh language. I don't think there's a more important country for our national security than Pakistan, and yet we face a lot of pushback from your department saying, well, it's just easier to communicate with Urdu. If you're trying to sell something, you need to sell it in the language that your customer wants to hear. I commend you as Senator Kerry for your incredible record of fighting for recognition of the Armenian genocide, and hope that as Secretary Kerry you will do likewise. And of course, it was the Azeri soldier that murdered a sleeping Armenian soldier at a NATO exercise has been promoted and praised. And in light of that and other aggression, I hope that you would review and perhaps withdraw the idea of any military assistance to Azerbaijan. I hope that you would also warn the Azeris that it is simply outrageous for them to threaten to shoot down civilian aircraft that try to fly into the Nagorno-Karabakh airport. The phrase pivot to Asia sounds wonderful when people think it means trade delegations to Tokyo. I hope you would furnish for the record how we can be sure that this doesn't mean that we take the eye off the Islamic extremists that have killed many thousands of Americans and get captivated by fighting for rocks which are misnamed as islands that have been uninhabited throughout human history. I hope that, but finally, as to the Ukraine, I hope that you would make it clear that the Senate should pass the House $1 billion aid bill now, because the plan to load up IMF reform, which I know you very much support, and put that on the back of the Ukraine bill, threatens to delay that bill for 3 legislative weeks, which I might add is 6 calendar weeks. And I think it's critical that we provide $1 billion of aid, both for financial reasons and to make a statement. And I wonder whether you could respond to that last one orally, time permitting.
Absolutely, but I want to take, you pegged something that I don't want to leave any question about whatsoever, and I appreciate if you misunderstood it, I don't want to leave it hanging out there, and that's on the issue of any equivalency between Jerusalem or the other. There is none, and it wasn't meant in that way. It was purely that there are bargaining cards everybody has, but you're absolutely correct. Jewish state was resolved in 1947 in Resolution 181, where there are more than 30 mentions of Jewish state. In addition, Chairman Arafat in 1988 and again in 2004 confirmed that he agreed it would be a Jewish state. And there are another number of mentions, but those are the sort of the most important acknowledgments thereof. I think it's a mistake for some people to be, raising it again and again as the critical decider of their attitude towards the possibility of a state and peace, and we've obviously made that clear. That's a conversation that will continue. But Jerusalem is an entirely separate issue to be resolved entirely separately and has its own set of obviously deep concerns. And our position has been pretty clear on that. So with respect to Ukraine and the aid, I want both. And I want them both now. But if I can't have one, we've got to have aid. We've just got to get the aid immediately. We can't be toying around here at a critical moment for Ukraine. And so, I know how things work up here. I don't want to get into the politics in between, but I do, to the degree I get into it, I want to say we need both. We need them now. Now, IMF, I know some people react, oh my gosh, it's one of those multilateral deals, and boy, do we hate that, and so forth. Folks, countries that have gotten aid from the IMF are today donor countries in the world. They're contributors to IMF. They are reformed. They are open market economies. They're more accountable than they would have been. They're more democratic than they would have been. This is our lever for encouraging democracy. And this is our lever for creating transparency and accountability and pricing reforms and getting rid of subsidies and creating an open market. That's how we've done it. And if you look dispassionately, non-ideologically at the record of countries that have gotten it, it's an amazing return on investment for America. We don't spend money and lose money. So I would urge people to do both, but boy, do we need aid for Ukraine, and we need it now.
We'll go now to